yeah, today we're going to be doing a January wrap-up and February TBR in one video. How crazy is that? Normally I separate these videos out, but today I thought that I would combine them all in one because, to be honest, my January wrap-up was a little bit diabolical and it would probably be about a 5-minute long video because I really did not read that much, which is crazy. So I hope that you enjoy these cozy monthly videos, and the part that I like the most about them is when you tell me what you've been reading in January and what you're excited for to read in February. So please make sure you leave your wrap-ups and your TBRs in the comments. Honestly, some of you read some incredible books and I would really like to find out what you've been reading recently. Let's start off with the January wrap-up. In January, I read only fantasy. I didn't read any other genres, which is actually a bit mad. And that will be changing in February. I'm actually incorporating a lot of different genres into my February TBR, so I'm really excited to read these books. But anywho, my January wrap-up, the first book that I read and finished was The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch. If you weren't aware, I am hosting a free book club on my YouTube channel. So the book of the month for January was The Lies of Loch Lamora. We had a really fun live stream at the end of the month where we discussed this. It was so nice to see so many of you get involved with that. I honestly had the time of my life doing that live stream. It was so wholesome and really insightful. A lot of you had different opinions on this book to what I had, but it really sparked some different perspectives. And for that, I'm so grateful. So thank you so much if you joined the live stream and offered your opinions, or if you watched the live stream afterwards and put your opinions on the book in the comments. It's so much fun reading books at the same time as other people. It's almost like we kind of did a buddy read, and the live stream was so much fun. I will obviously host another one at the end of February for the February book club pick, which I will be sharing in the February TBR part of this video. Anyways, let's talk about The Lies of Loch Lamora. I found this to be a challenging read. I think the writing style is not for the faint-hearted. It's not a beginner-friendly book. I wouldn't recommend this to somebody who'd never really read before and wanted to get into it. But I really enjoyed it. I love Scott Lynch's writing style. Some of the writing was beautiful. He's very description heavy in some parts. I felt like there was a lot of description and not that much dialogue, but it doesn't matter because he sets the scene so well that you can visualize basically everything that is happening. It was so great. It was almost like a movie was playing in my head when reading this book. I felt like the first half of the book was a very slow build-up, a lot of world building, introducing us to characters and their personalities. And then bam, right in the second half of the book, that is where all the tension happens. The plot did not stop in the second half of the book. There was like 3 major, huge plots going on all at the same time, and I couldn't keep up, and they were so tense, and there was action, 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 and I genuinely didn't know how to process the second half of that book. There was just so much to it. I couldn't even tell you what the plot was because there was just so much complexity to it. But my goodness me, was it a journey. I love the characters. I especially love the banter between Locke and Jean. So they are probably 2 of the main characters in the book. If you weren't aware, this series is centered around the Gentleman Bastards, which is, what are they, like con men? Like a group of thieves? Yeah, they're definitely thieves. It's almost like they steal from the rich to make a statement and to have like a strong message behind their thievery. This book was a little bit brutal. If you've read the likes of A Song of Ice and Fire, George R.R. Martin, then you will be very well equipped for some of the brutality in this. It wasn't as brutal as that particular book series, but there were moments in this book that made me wince and that made me think, ooh, ouch. I liked that it wasn't too heavy on the fantasy elements as well. There's a very subtle use of magic in this. That was quite a nice, refreshing read. A lot of the fantasy I've read recently has been very, very heavy on the fantasy, whereas this is like a little trickle of it, like a little sprinkle of fantasy. What am I even going on about? One thing that I loved the most about this book is the city of Camor, where it is set. It is inspired by Venice and it's beautiful. It sounds like such a lovely place. I did actually go to Venice last year, so I had a pretty good idea of what I felt like Camor would look like in my mind. Everything was like water-based, canal-based. They had like this shifting market, which was like a market set on the water. They had like championships and tournaments set in the water. There was loads of ships. It was such an interesting location and I loved it. I also felt like this book feels like a standalone. It doesn't actually feel like part of a series, which was really interesting for me. It felt like it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I don't really know at all what the second book is gonna entail, because this felt like it finished and it didn't require to be part of a series. It really does feel like a standalone. And overall, I just really enjoyed this. It started the book club off strong. The next book that I read in January is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is book 1 in the Empyrean series. I did read this because the third book in the series was released at the end of January. This is a romantasy, don't get me wrong. I did do a review, like a full review on this book on my channel, and I stand by what I said. I do think that this is more fantasy than romantasy. I really don't think there is that much romance in it compared to other romantasies that I've read. The thing that I love the most about this is the dragons. So this book is about a dragon rider military training academy, and I just really like the way that the author describes the badassness of the dragons. They're so OP, they're so powerful. I loved the dragon battles. The fights in this are incredible. This was actually a little bit more brutal than I thought it was going to be. There was a lot of death in this book, but it was an emotional journey. I felt like the writing style was a little bit YA, young adult. It wasn't a complex or challenging reading style, so I would actually recommend this to beginners as well, especially if you are somebody who wants to get into fantasy and you've not read it before and you do like a little bit of romance. I would recommend this because it was very easy to read in my opinion, but it wasn't basic. It was still detailed enough. There was a good use of world building. There were a lot of likeable characters, but it did have the classic trope of the two love interests just do not communicate, and all their problems would be solved if they communicated. Mind-blowing. And that can be a little bit irritating. However, I really enjoyed this so much. It made me feel warm and fuzzy inside, and the plot twist at the end was crazy. It made me gasp. It was that good. So that is the second book that I read in January. The next book that I read in January is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. So this is book number 2 in the Empyrean series, following on from Fourth Wing. Now this one is a lot slower than Fourth Wing, I will say. Now, I love detailed books. I love world building. I don't mind if a plot progresses slowly because there's so much information to give us about the world and the locations. I normally don't mind that, and I normally actually really love it because it helps me feel fully immersed in that universe. However, there were parts of this book that I felt were just a bit repetitive. I felt like we were going over the same things over and over again, and I do personally feel like this book could be 100 pages shorter and for the same message to have been brought across. That being said, I did love it still. I felt so connected to the characters. There wasn't that much action compared to Fourth Wing. I felt like Fourth Wing had so much tension, so much action in almost every chapter. It was crazy. But this one was a lot slower and a much different change of pace. And I also feel like the plot twist at the end didn't hit me the same way that the one at the end of Fourth Wing did. I don't know if you've read this, without spoiling too much in the comments for other people if they haven't, what did you think to the ending of this book? Because I have a feeling it's a plot twist that is meant to hit really hard, and for me it just fell flat. However, there was still some really cool battles, the dragons are still badass, and I still really enjoyed it because I love this world, I love the storyline, and it is juicy. So yeah, really enjoyed this book as well, just a bit slower compared to Fourth Wing. And then the final book that I read in January, although I must admit I have not fully finished this yet, so it is also a February TBR to finish it. This is Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas. So this is book number 3 in the Throne of Glass series, but I have read this one fourth because I read the prequel first. I am currently about 200 pages in, I believe. 250 pages in. I'm enjoying it so far, but golly gosh, it feels so different to the previous book. So I rated the previous book, Crown of Midnight, 5 out of 5 stars. I loved that book so much. It was incredible. I could not fault it. This book, unfortunately, is feeling very, very different to that. The writing style has completely changed. We all of a sudden have point of views from characters that we've never ever heard of before, and therefore I don't care about them yet. But there's so much detail and so much information about these characters, but I kind of just want to know about the previous ones from the previous few books. I feel like the storyline is progressing very, very slowly at the moment. I'm 250 pages in, and I really don't think all that much has happened. I could describe to you in a sentence the main things that have happened. I won't, because it'll be a spoiler. The new characters are interesting, like they're all really unique, they're all really gripping and interesting, and yeah, their backstories are really cool. And I am interested to know what happens to the plots. It's just weird at the moment because it's such a different change of pace. It's just so much slower to what Crown of Midnight was. And I feel like as well, like, if I'm being honest at the moment, I think I'm in a little bit of a reading slump, which is such a shame because I haven't had one in months. I don't know if maybe I've just read too much fantasy recently and I need a palate cleanser, or maybe I had such high expectations for this book because the previous one was a 5 stars, so maybe I feel a little bit disappointed. I don't know what it is. I hope I get out of the reading slump soon. I feel like I will because my February TBR is strong. There's some books in my Feb TBR that I'm so excited to read. So I will finish this. Like I said, I'm about halfway through, I think. And I know that it will be good either way. Like, I love this series so much. It will be good. I know that. I just think I valued the previous book so highly and this one is not hitting me the same way, unfortunately. But it's an enjoyable read. So those are all the books from my January wrap up. Now let's move on to my February TBR. First book that I want to read in February was actually on my January TBR, and I'm so gutted I didn't get around to reading it. But this is Eldest by Christopher Paolini, and this is the second book in the Inheritance cycle, following on from Eragon. I think the reason why I didn't get around to reading this in January was just because I was reading so many dragon fantasy books. So then I think to then move on to Eldest, I might have been a little bit drained from all the dragon stuff. I never thought I'd ever say that because I love dragons so much with every fibre of my being. But I think when I'm in a reading slump, to continuously read very, very similar books one after another, all around dragons and fantasy and similar themes, I think I just needed something a bit different. But I am going to read Eldest very, very soon because I'm so excited for this. I loved Eragon so much. I love Christopher Paolini's writing style. Again, this is a very easy book to get into. Like, I feel like if you are a beginner to reading or to fantasy, I would recommend Eragon. Therefore, I'm so excited to read Eldest. I think it's going to be a strong book and I really want to enjoy it. So I want to get out of my reading slump before I read this because I really want to appreciate the beauty of this book. Next up on my February TBR, something very, very different for me, and I think that this might get me out of my reading slump. I might actually read this before Eldest, just after Heir of Fire. It's a very quick, short read. This is Animal Farm by George Orwell. What an absolute classic. This book is tiny. I think it's about 110 pages long. I will fly through this. I could get through this in a day, to be honest. I think I just need a palate cleanser. That's what I'm craving, something so different to all the books that I read in January, and I think that this is it. I also think that this book has such a strong message behind it. I've never read this, by the way. I know it's a classic, but I just think that there's going to be some crazy deep themes around this book. And there's a quote that I really, really like in this book, and I've never even read it, but I've heard the quote so many times and I love it. The quote is, "All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others." And does that not sum up the world that we live in? So I'm really excited to read this. I may do a full-length review of it on my channel once I finished it, just with some key themes and messages that I got from it. I just think it's going to be powerful. So that might be the next one that I go for. The next book that I want to read in February, which again, I really hope I do get round to because this one is everywhere at the moment. It's very, very highly hyped. And this is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, which is the third book in the Empyrean series. This is the book that came out at the end of January. I was initially going to read this immediately after Iron Flame, but I was in such a reading slump, which is why I moved on to Heir of Fire instead. I thought if I pick this up and read this right now, I'm not going to enjoy it. And I know it's a good book. I just know it's a good book. I want to enjoy it. Similar with Eldest. I don't want to rush into it when I'm not in the best frame of mind for reading at the moment. So I'm going to save those books for when I am, so I can fully appreciate and enjoy them. I love the front cover of this. I think it's the most beautiful out of the 3 books so far. And I've heard some incredible things about it online. Apparently it's filled with action. I've heard that it's a different pace to Iron Flame, so the action and the plot starts to speed back up again. And I think it is going to be an emotional journey, so I'm really excited to read Onyx Storm. I think it'll be a goodie. Next up, this book I have to read in February because this is the February book club pick that you decided on the poll. So thank you very much for voting on that on my community tab if you did. The book that you picked for February's book club is Dune by Frank Herbert. I'm so excited to read this. I'm actually a little bit upset that I have the front cover that has the movie version on it. I personally don't like front covers of books that have the movie characters on them. I prefer the true, authentic, original front covers, so that's a shame, but it's fine. It's not the end of the world. There's bigger things going on. This is going to be a nice change of pace for me because it's a different genre. So this is a sci-fi. I've wanted to read this for a very long time. Again, I've heard incredible things about this. I have been warned that it's a little bit slow or a little bit heavy on the detail, but again, I don't mind. I just feel so interested in this. I think it's going to be just really cool. So if you haven't read this book, then I would encourage you to do so, because then you can chat to me about it on the live stream at the end of February. So the live stream will be on the 22nd of February, which is a Saturday, and that is at 7 p.m. GMT time. I would love to see you there. Alternatively, if you've already read this book, then please feel free to come to the live stream, because again, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I did have some people say that they had already read it and they don't feel like rereading it for the purpose of the book club. That's fine, but I would still love for you to come and share me your opinions, and I can't wait to chat to you about it. And again, if you can't attend that live stream but you would like to share your thoughts, then please do, because it will be uploaded as a video after I've gone live, and you can put your thoughts and opinions in the comments as well, and we can chat that way. So this is February's book club pick. I will be posting a poll very soon for the March book club. We have 4 brilliant options and I'm so excited about each of these books. But yeah, this is not a short book. This is over 550 pages and I have the shortest month of the year to read it in. And then the final book that I want to read in February, and I think that this is probably the book that I need the most at the moment. This is probably the one that's gonna impact my life the most in February. This is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. I've read this book before, so this will be a reread in February. This honestly changed my perspective about everything and the way that I view my life and the metric that I use to determine my happiness and what makes me happy. And I mentioned in previous videos, but December was not a very good month for me in 2024. And unfortunately, January 2025 has not been a very good month either. It's been really difficult. Hence the reading slump, just generally not enjoying things as much as I used to, but that's fine. It happens. I'm still very blessed. I'm still very grateful for everything that I have. It's just sometimes we cannot help how our mental health is, especially when there are situations that happen that are very negative and we've got no control over them. I know for a fact that I am not the only one, but if you need a recommendation for a book that is going to hopefully help you have a more helpful mindset and help you balance the way that you think about the world, I would recommend this one, because I really found it so powerful the first time that I read it, which was a few years ago now, and I'm going to reread it because I think I need to. And it's interesting as well because if you didn't know, I am a qualified and registered therapist, and I've still found this book really helpful, because I think sometimes you just need a down-to-earth reminder that it's not that deep. So it's going to be a really fun February reading month because there's so many different books. These all feel very different. There's so many different genres. Yeah, we've got such a mixture of books there and I'm so excited to read them and, as always, review them for you on my channel. Oh, that almost fell. Oh, it did. Ooh, almost spilled a whole glass of water. Why? So those are the books that I read in January and the books that are on my TBR for February. Now it's your turn. Let me know what you read in Jan and what you want to read in Feb. I don't know why I'm shortening the month names. Maybe I'm trying to be cool when I'm clearly not. Because I'd love to hear what you've been reading and what you think to them as well. Have you read anything really cool recently? Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want access to some cool perks, then make sure to check out the channel memberships. Just want to give a big shout out to the Dragon Riders supporting my channel. It means the world to me. If you want to get your name featured in my videos like this one, then please consider becoming a Dragon Rider. Or if you would like to support the channel in any way, then take a look at my memberships. And if you like my content and you want to see more from me, then please subscribe because it's free and it means that you can see my videos easier. Thanks so much for being here as always. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time, or rather you'll see me, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.